All right, I will say good morning. Good morning. Schos Baruch Hashem to be back in person with all of you. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Teves, Sama Wolf, with immense gratitude for the refuahs from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the merit of a refuah shlema for all of those in need and the schos of our brave soldiers and for the safe return of Meretz Hashem b'sha'at tov u'metzlachas of all of our hostages. We also dedicate all of Masechas Baba Kama in the Schos of Aliyah for the neshama of Master Sergeant Yomi Charush, Hashem Yikom Damo, who was one of the first police officers killed in the battle in Sderot. We hope that the merit of our Talmud Torah, his neshama will have an aliyah, and the family a nechama. Also, I want to take the opportunity really to give a special thank you to Moshe Abramson for helping me out so that I could be able to give the daf virtually for a good part of the time while I was away. A special thank you to my Richter, for Baruch Hashem always doing such a wonderful job in giving the shir when I can't do it, but it was a great schus to learn with all of you from Eretz Yisrael, and now a great schus Baruch Hashem to be back together. So we'll say with that, new week, new parak, Baruch Hashem, incredible sugya ahead of us. Today's daf is Mem Vav 46, and we are picking up in Eretz Hashem at Mem Vav at the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says as follows. So we'll say a very interesting case here. We're actually going to have two cases in the Mishnah. They're the opposite of each other, but again, the theme is going to be the same. You have a shar, an ox, which went ahead and gored a cow, and the cow was pregnant. The ox kills the cow, and again, whether the fetus is dead or not is somewhat irrelevant. But the point over here is, what you find, let's just to keep it simple, so the ox gored the cow, so what you find over here by the scene of the crime, so to speak, is a dead cow and a dead calf. That's what I know. Now I will say, now what don't I know? What's the piece of information missing over here? Did the cow give birth before the goring or after the goring? That's what I don't know. Now, I remember again, what's the nafkamina? What's the practical difference between that? So remember again, is the owner of the ox chayiv for the loss of just the cow? In other words, if the cow gave birth before the goring, then the owner of the ox is just responsible for the goring of the cow and not for the calf. If, however, again, the cow was pregnant at the time of the goring, and let's say now as a result both of the cow and the calf are dead, or even if the calf is not dead but the calf is injured, then ultimately again the owner of the ox will be responsible for both the cow as well as the calf. So look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says over here, so we'll say that's where Rashi is going with the simple idea that both the cow and the calf are dead. So the shaila is, did the calf die as a result of the goring, or did the calf die even before the goring occurred? So we'll say, so what's the halacha? So mashalim chatzi nezek lapara, ureviya nezek levlad. So we'll say, so remember again, we're dealing over here with the case of the shar is a tam. So the shar is a tam. So because the shar is a tam, what's going to be the halacha? You pay chatzi nezek. So the owner of the ox will pay chatzi nezek for the cow itself. What about for the calf? So for the calf, you're going to, and we're being introduced now to something new, you're going to pay quarter damages. Now, where does quarter damages come from? Look at Rashi. Reviya nezek. Rashi says, "The tam chayiv chatzi nezek, v'hai vlad mutal b'safiku l'cholkin." So we'll say, so remember again, the halacha is there is no such thing as quarter damages. What does quarter damages reflect? Quarter damages reflects doubt, safek. So because remember, technically speaking, had we known that the ox did gore the calf and kill the calf, you'd be chayiv chatzi nezek for the calf as well. Because we don't know whether or not the cow was pregnant at the time of the goring or not, therefore again we essentially have a safek. We have a safek. Did the ox kill the calf? Did the ox not kill the calf? Because it's a safek, essentially what we do is we half the liability. So instead of making the owner of the ox liable for chatzi nezek for the cow and chatzi nezek for the calf, chatzi nezek for the cow we know for sure the owner of the ox is liable for, right? Why? Because we know that the ox gored the cow, and it's a tam case. So that chatzi nezek is definitive. The shaila is on the uber, on the calf. So because it's doubt, therefore we'll make it at quarter damages. All right, very interesting. So we'll say that's case one. And Rashi points out over here that we're going to see this is a halachic principle. What's the halachic principle? Mammon hamutal b'safek cholkin. Whenever you have a doubt about money, about a monetary claim, what do? You half it. You have it. So in this case, did the ox kill the calf or not? So let's analyze this. If it would have killed the calf, it would be chayiv chatzi nezek. If it wouldn't have killed, no, I'll also put out something else, which is, this is also presupposing that uber lav yerechimo. The Gemara is not discussing this now, but it's kind of, we're looking also at the calf and the mother as two distinct entities. Even though, again, remember again, the case in question over here is the calf might have been pregnant at the time of the goring. We're looking at the calf as an independent entity of the mother. So remember again, our only suffix in this case is, did the ox kill the calf or not? Which essentially means, was the mother pregnant with the calf at the time of the goring, or had the mother already delivered the calf before the goring occurred? So at most the liability would have been chatzi nezek, calf damages, because we have a suffix. Therefore, what do we say? Maman amutal b'suffix cholkin. Money in doubt, just split it, and therefore again liability will be for quarter damages. That's case 1 of the Mishnah. Case 2 is just the reverse. V'chein para shenagcha es hashar. So this is interesting. What happens if you have a pregnant cow that gored an ox? So we're just switching over here. We're just switching the aggressor and the victim over here. Right. So now let's say the pregnant cow, went ahead and gored the ox. Oh, sorry. So now what happens? So too again, what happened if halacha l'maisa? A little rusty. Okay, good. So too again, what happens if the cow went ahead and gored the shore? So just the opposite case. Pregnant cow gored the shore. Now we'll say, now watch this. This is fascinating. It's the same case, just the roles are reversed. The pregnant cow gored the shore. Now we'll say that after the goring occurred, what do we find? The calf is by the side. So the mother, the cow, birthed the calf. What don't we know? Did she birth the calf before the goring or after the goring? Now, what does it matter? This is fascinating. What it matters is, was the calf a partner in the goring of the ox? That's the shaila. If the pregnant cow gored the ox, and then after the act of the goring, you find the offspring, you find the calf by the side. So the shaila is now, did the mother give birth before the goring? In which case, the cow herself is the only perpetrator of the goring, and therefore the calf had nothing to do with the goring, or was the mother pregnant with the calf at the time of the goring, in which case what? The calf itself is a partner in the goring of the ox. Now understand, we're going to talk about this idea. So at first glance, it doesn't seem to make sense. Like, what are you talking about? There's going to be like double liability over here? Like the mother would have liability and the calf would have liability? So we'll see in the Gemara exactly how to interpret this case. I'll give you a little bit of sneak preview. It could be dealing with a case where the cow and the calf are owned by two different people. In which case again, you could have two damaging forces and two different sources of liability, but you'll forget that I said that, which you probably just did anyway. Right, so the Gemara says as follows. Like this, mishtalim chatzi nezek min apara or revia nezek min avlad. So this is the opposite case. So in this case over here, the mother, the cow, will pay chatzi nezek. Why does she pay chatzi nezek? Why? Karen tam, and the vlad, so to speak, will pay quarter damages. Right? Because again, we're not sure. Was the calf part of the damage, not part of the damage, a damaging force, not a damaging force? So therefore, again, it's maman amutal b'safek. It's ultimately money that is shrouded in doubt. And what do you do with money shrouded in doubt? You have it. Beautiful. Both say, this is our Mishnah. Now both say there is something terribly nagging about this Mishnah. What's terribly nagging about this Mishnah? This seems to fly in the face of a core principle of Dinei Mamanis. Watch this. Take a look at the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. So let's just point something out over here. Zu divrei sumchus. This entire Mishnah reflects the view of sumchus. What does Simchas say? Damar, Maman Hamutal B'Safek Cholkin. Simchas is of the opinion about say that whenever you have doubt regarding a monetary claim, right? So we're not sure. I'm going to say that's his case over here, right? It's easier to illustrate it with case number one, right? Ox gores the cow. Ox gores the cow. Right next to the cow, the calf is lying there, right? So what don't we know? What do we know? Did the ox kill the calf or didn't kill the calf? We know it killed the cow. Did it kill the calf or not? So we're not sure. So we know if we knew for sure that the ox killed the calf, then what? You'd be chayiv chatzin nezek for the cow and chatzin nezek for the calf. Right? But since we don't know, we're not sure, did the cow kill the calf? So did the ox kill the calf? We'll give chatzin nezek for the cow and quarter damages for the calf. We have it because we're not sure. So the Gemara says, by the way, that reflects the view of Sumchus. Sumchus holds that whenever you have doubt about a monetary claim, the way we resolve that is cholkin. We split it. We split it. That's the easiest way. We just split it. Like, we'll say essentially, what is that? What is that? That is a form of pshara. That is a form of, what's the right word for pshara? Compromise, thank you. Compromise. That's and this is Sumchus' derech in general. When you don't know what that halach is, we'll say whether this happens to appear in Choshen Mishpat, in Hilchos Dayanim, Siman Aleph, beginning of Choshen Mishpat, beginning of Hilchos Dayanim. So the halacha, the Shulchan Aruch brings down that it is important for Dayanim to try to make pshara whenever possible. Compromise is always the ideal way of conflict resolution. Now, there's an exception to that. The exception to that is actually interesting. The Shulchan Aruch brings down that if there is a case that comes before a Beis Din, and it is so clear that one party is right and one party is wrong, you're thinking to myself, it's like every argument I have, right? Right? Where it's clear one participant. So then the Shulchan Aruch paskins pshara is aser, compromise is aser, which is interesting. Let's say it's a tremendous yisod in life. Compromise is good when there's some gray. If there is no gray, and there is only black and white, there is only truth and untruth, kasher treif, tamei tahar, you have no right to compromise. Interesting. In any event, so Sumchus holds, plug that into a lot of our current realities that we are undergoing as a people right now. I'm about to say everyone, just not even wading into politics, but everyone, now that calls for ceasefire. And you saw the tunnel that the IDF uncovered yesterday. As they say, zelo normali, right? The normal people don't do things like that. Normal people do not divert electricity, concrete that could be used to benefit the constituency that you're supposed to govern and create tunnels through which you could drive vehicles. It's not to deliver humanitarian aid. It's only to destroy. There's no, there is no, let's find a little bit of a compromise. Let's find a little bit of a middle ground. It is off. Okay, in any event. So the point over here is, Sumcha says, Maman hamutal b'safek. I have to tell you, you see, sometimes when you're removed from something, so your mind, interestingly enough, kind of begins to rationalize certain things. Oh, maybe there is another side. Maybe there is a this. Maybe there is a that. And then you begin to see the realities on the ground in Eretz Yisrael and what it means to have a neighbor who is bent on your destruction, what that means just in day-to-day life, and what it means for our young men and women in the army, and what it means for the hostages, and what it does to us, how it changes the reality for us. We saw what happened over Shabbos about the three hostages who were killed by the army. Again, you expect an army to operate in the most mind-blowing circumstances. In realities, it's not just urban warfare. That's not what it is. It's not simple urban warfare. It's a different world. It's a world of terrorism, and it's a world of animalistic behavior. So how do you reconcile? How do you compromise with a force like that? So Sumcha says, "Maman hamotel b'safek." Cholkin. So Sumcha says ultimately again that whenever you have money that is shrouded in doubt, you go ahead and you split it. I will say, but this is what's been bothering us from the beginning of the Mishnah. Avachamim omrim ze klal gadol bedin hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. We will say this was bothering you from the first line of the Mishnah, right? Because remember, how did the Mishnah read? Right? Let's just play this out. My ox gores Reuven's cow, Reuven's pregnant cow, right? Or Reuven's cow that was pregnant at some point in time. After the damage is done, the cow is dead and the calf is dead. And we don't know, did the cow deliver the calf before the goring, in which case I had nothing to do with the calf, or was the calf pregnant at the time of the goring, in which case I'm responsible both for the death of the cow and the calf. So the Mishnah says, okay, for the cow, chatzi nezek. For the calf, split it, quarter damages. What? What are you talking about? Hamotzi mechaber lavaraya. Ruvain, if you want to prove that my shar killed your calf, that burden of proof is upon you. So we'll say, that's why the Mishnah reads a little bit strange to us, but again, the Gemara explains that halacha l'maisa, we are talking about over here the position of sumchus. And sumchus holds maman amotel b'safek cholkin. Maman amotel b'safek cholkin. But the chachamim say no. Shabbos says, to point out, this Mishnah does not reflect the view of the chachamim. Shabbos say, let's go through this. According to the chachamim, how would the Mishnah read? Let's play this out. My ox goes ahead and gores Ruvain's pregnant cow. Now, what happens? My ox kills the cow, and at the scene of the crime, we find a dead cow and a dead calf. And I know my ox killed Ruvain's cow, but I don't know whether or not the cow was pregnant with the calf at the time of the goring. According to Chacham, what's the halacha? Chatzi nezek for the cow, and what am I liable for the calf? Nothing. In other words, I am not liable for that until Ruvain proves his claim that I am liable. In other words, Ruvain, you want to tell me that your cow was pregnant at the time that my ox gored it? Okay, I'm open to hearing everything, but that burden of proof is upon you. You want to extract additional money from me? Go right ahead. The burden of proof is upon you. So we'll say, fundamental machlokes, sumchus and the chachamim. Sumchus, whenever you have a doubt about a monetary claim, pshara, compromise, split it. Cholkin. Rabbanan? No way. Hamotzi mechaver lavaraya. We'll say, in general, a person is considered to be muchsak in their money. In other words, the money, you have money, it's in your wallet, in your bank account. The chazak is that belongs to you. That belongs, right? Not the chazak, it belongs to you. Somebody wants to extract that from you, the burden of proof is upon the extractor. The burden of proof is not upon me. So just to point out over here, this Mishnah, so again, I just want to tell you this, although it's a little bit anticlimactic, this Mishnah is not halacha l'maisa. Right, because this Mishnah is reflective of a financial model that we do not subscribe to. This entire Mishnah is sumchus, maman amotel b'safek cholkin. We pass k'amotzi mechaver alav haraya. Now the Gemara says, now it's interesting the way the Gemara says it. The Gemara says cham momrin zeh klal gadol. Right, it's an overarching principle. Hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. The Gemara says lam l'memer zeh klal gadol. Right, bedin. Why such like a drum roll, like smoke machines. Why the dramatic intro? Right. Just say our Mishnah doesn't reflect the view of the Chachamim, because the Chachamim hold Amotzi mechaver alav haraya. Why do you have to say zeh klal gadol bedin? This is a very important principle in the law. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. Itzterich dafilu nizak omer bari umazik omer shema hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. Watch this. Because it matters. What about the following case? Right, my ox gores Ruvain's cow that was pregnant. Right now, at the scene of the crime, there's a dead cow and there's a dead calf. I say, or I should say, Ruvain says, I'm telling you, my cow was pregnant at the time of the goring. And I say, what do I say? I don't know. I'm not even arguing with you, Ruvain. I don't know. So you might have thought that in a case where the damaged party is bari, makes a definitive claim. Ruvain is claiming, I know for sure that my cow was pregnant at the time of the goring. We just came back from the sonogram, right? I know for sure. It was a joke, right? I know for sure, right? That Lamaisa, again, my cow was pregnant. And the damager say, I don't know. I just don't know one way or the other. So you might have thought in that case, maybe we should adopt Sumchus' principle of Maman Amutal B'Safek Cholkin, that when you have a doubt about monetary law, or monetary claim, just split it. Kamash Mala, no. The Gemara says, Zeh Klal Gadol Bedin. What does that intro teach me? That's how we deal with monetary cases. When there is a doubtful claim, the burden of proof is upon the extractor. The burden of proof is upon the damaged party to prove that he is entitled to those damages. So even in a case where Reuven is claiming definitively, my cow is pregnant at the time of the damage, and I, the damager, saying, I just don't know. I just don't know one way or the other. Halacha l'maisa, the burden of proof is upon Reuven to prove that his cow was pregnant at the time of the damages, and until he could definitively prove that, I am not liable. Incredible. Inami. So the Gemara says, Inami lechi had itmar hamochi shadachaber v'nimtza nagchon. So I will say something. I'll tell you a very interesting piece on hamochi mechaber alavaraya. Just b'derech hashkaf in a little bit, but let's cover a little bit more ground. Inami. So the Gemara says, Inami. The other possibility is lechi had itmar. The other reason why, so we'll say what the Gemara is now intrigued by is just the intro to the concept of hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. The Gemara doesn't just say the chachamim hold hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. Instead, they say ze klal gadol bedin. This is a very important principle. So whenever you see an intro like that, the Gemara is obviously coming to teach me something additional. So the Gemara says, listen to this. So the Gemara says, Inami lechi hadi itmar mocher shalachavero v'nimtza nagchon. This is actually an interesting case. Reuven sells an ox to Shimon. We actually referenced this last week a little bit. Reuven sells an ox to Shimon, and it turns out that the ox is a nagchon, is a goring ox. It has a problem. It's a gorer. So the Gemara says, what's the halachos? What's the status of the sale? Rav Amar Harei Mekachtos. Rav says, void the sale. Void the sale. You know, you wanted to buy a Cadillac, and it turns out that the owner sold you a Toyota. Okay, so you didn't get what you paid for. So it's mekachtos. So you meant to buy a shar that you could use for plowing. So instead, you got a shar that's a gore. Remember, again, about the only thing you could do with a goring shar is slaughter it. You can use it for food. The problem with using it for food is that's a one-time use, as opposed to a shar, ultimately again that you get for plowing, which is continuous use. So now, so Shimon bought a shar from Reuven. He wanted to use it for plowing. It turns out that lamaisa again, it's a nagchon, it's a goring shar. Rav says void the sale. Right, Shimon could go ahead and give the shar back to Reuven. Reuven could go ahead and Reuven needs to give back the money to Shimon. Shmuel says no. So listen to this. Shmuel says no. There's no voiding of the sale over here. Reuven could say to Shimon, What are you talking about? The sale is perfectly fine. I sold it to you for shechita purposes. We never really explicitly discussed what it was being sold for. So I assume that you were buying it for consumption, and therefore this animal is absolutely fit for consumption, and therefore the sale stands. So the Gemara says, one second. Now I both say, now understand. So what is Shmuel basing himself on? Shmuel is basing himself on hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. So now Shimon, you want to void the sale, thereby extract the money back, the purchase money back from Reuven, so prove it. So now you're claiming I did not want to buy a goring ox. Only I wanted to buy an ox for plowing. This ox could only be slaughtered. So Shmuel says, I don't understand. I thought I was selling you an ox for slaughtering. If you want to prove otherwise, the burden of proof is upon you. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. The Gemara says, Amai, v'nechse igarver dezabel l'raja, igarver dezabel l'nechasta. So I'll say, so why don't we just look at the purchasing history of Shimon? Now we'll say, so is Shimon a guy who usually buys oxen for meat, or for slaughter purposes, or for farming? In other words, if he doesn't have land, then bepashtos, when he's buying an ox, he's buying it for meat. If he does have land, then maybe he's often just buying it for plowing purposes. The case in question is where Shimon is a guy who buys for both purposes. He buys for both purposes. I have now both say, now bepashtos, why don't we look at the purchase price? Because bepashtos, you pay more for a plowing ox than you do for a consumption ox, right? What's the logic behind that? The logic behind that is that halacha l'maisa, again, remember slaughter is a one-time event. So obviously, again, there's going to be a price cap on that. A plowing ox, which is continuous use, is going to command a higher price. So the truth is, the Gemara says over here, there shouldn't really be a suffix as to why Shimon bought the ox. Let's look at the purchase price, and you should be able to tell everything from the purchase price. To which the Gemara says, no, we're talking about a case over here where it happens to be the cost of meat went up. So that the truth is pretty much a cost for meat and a cost for, in other words, the cost for a meat ox, so to speak, for a consumption ox and for a plowing ox are pretty much the same. So you can't tell the difference in purchase price. Amud Beis. Amud days. So the Gemara says, "V'i leka." So we'll say, so now, just listen. Why are we doing this now? Why is this here? So let's just pause here for just a second before we kind of delve a little bit more into this case. So remember, what are we focusing on over here? The Mishnah introduced us to a halacha. What was the halacha? Right, an ox gores a pregnant cow. The cow and the calf are dead at the scene of the crime. What don't we know? Was the cow pregnant at the time of the goring, or did it deliver prior to the goring? So what does the Mishnah say? Mishnah says, owner of the ox pay chatzi nezek for the cow and quarter damages ultimately for the calf. And then we just saw the reverse case as well, where the cow wasn't the victim, but the cow was the damager. The Gemara says, whose opinion does our Mishnah reflect? Sumchus. What does Sumchus say? Maman hamotel b'safek cholkin. Whenever you have a doubt about monetary law, just split it. Pshara, just make a compromise, split it. So therefore, because we don't know, was the cow pregnant with the calf at the time of the damage or not? So therefore, again, technically, if the cow was pregnant, the owner of the shor will be chayiv chatzi nezek for the calf. Therefore, because we're not sure, quarter damages for the calf, and that is all. And that is all. Okay. So now we'll say, so now the Gemara says, but our Mishnah doesn't reflect the dominant view of the Rabbanon. What did the Rabbanon hold? Hamotzi mechaveira alav haraya. You want to extract money from someone, you have a claim, and that claim will require someone to pay you money. No problem. The burden of proof is upon the extractor. Now we'll say, so now remember, now we got into this whole thing over here, because the way the Gemara introduced that halacha was zeh klal gadol bedin. This is a very important principle. The Gemara says, whoa, why the intro? Right? Why the intro? So possibility one, to teach you that even in a case where, let's say again, the damager is unsure, but the damaged party is sure, still the burden of proof rests upon the damaged party. And now the Gemara is bringing up another case, another illustration of this case. Reuven sold Shimon an ox. It turns out that the ox is a goring ox. Shimon says, I want my money back. Rav says, Shimon has the ability to do so. Shmuel says, no, you can't. No, you can't. Hamotzi mechaber alav haraya. Essentially, you have to prove that you bought this ox for plowing purposes and not for shchita purposes. The Gemara is just going through a whole bunch of things. Well, maybe you could tell based on the purchase price, based on the purchase history. Fine. So now we'll say, so now we pick up with this. So Gemara says the ilaka. Now we'll say, let's say for argument's sake. So remember again, Shimon bought this ox from Reuven, and now he wants his money back. He wants his money back because halacha l'maisa, he claims that he bought an ox for plowing purposes, but this is a goring ox and it's of no use to him. V'ileka, let's say Reuven doesn't have the money anymore. So I don't understand. So why can't Shimon just go ahead, hold on to the ox, sell the ox for money? Okay, you don't want the ox anymore. That's fine, but you have an asset. In other words, you don't have to claim a mekachtos over here because l'maisa you have the asset. So why not just go ahead and sell the asset? And if you want to recover your money like that, recover your money. Darmi inchi, people say mimari rishvasach pe'eri efra. So we'll say there's an expression. The expression that sounds much better in the Aramaic than it does in the English translation. People say that even if all you have is bran, sell it for money. The idea being that if you want to recapture money from a transaction, having in your possession an asset that you could sell obviously is worth something. So over here, we're getting all caught up as to whether or not Shimon could void the transaction because he's claiming that he bought an ox for plowing purposes, but it turns out it's a goring ox. So look, if you can get your money back from Reuven, great. But if you can't get your money back from Reuven, you have an ox. So why not just go ahead and sell the asset and recapture your money like that? No, because the case in question over here is Reuven does have money, and Shimon would much rather recover his funds than he would have to go ahead and go through the process of selling an ox. One could imagine selling an ox, especially a goring ox. Remember again, you only have a very limited population you could sell to. Who can you sell to? Right, the butcher, right, the meat market. That's all, because no one else is going to want to maintain an ox like that. Okay, Rav says, Harezeh mekachtos. So we'll say going back over here. So Rav says, no, this is a mekachtos. So we'll say, remember again. So now we're back. We've digressed a little bit. Although this is a really fascinating case. So remember, we got into this whole thing because Shmuel essentially is saying hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. Right? Reuven sold Shimon an ox. Right? Ultimately, again, It turns out that the ox is a goring ox. Shimon says, I want my money back. I only bought it for plowing purposes. So Rav says, no problem, mekachtos. Shmuel says, no, amotzi mechaver alav haraya. You have to prove that you bought this for plowing and not for shechita purposes. Now the Gemara says, we're going to go through the positions of Rav and Shmuel a bit more. Rav amar hareza mekachtos. Rav says this is a mekachtos. Why? Zil basa ruba. We look at the majority of people. The ruba de inchi l'rajihu de zavni. So we'll say, this is actually very interesting. So Rav says the majority of people buy oxen for plowing. So Rav is just espousing a fact. I guess what he's saying also here is, although people, it could be that the majority of animals that are bought for consumption purposes, but dafka ashor. Remember again, an ox, it could be that oxen were generally bought for plowing purposes and not for consumption purposes. So Rav says you have the rov. The rov says over here that unless you know otherwise, bepashtos, the majority of people buy oxen for plowing purposes. Therefore, again, when Shimon finds out that his ox is a nagchan, is a goring ox, he has the right to claim mekachtos and get his money back. And Shmuel says, Yachol shiyomer lo b'shchita mechartiv lach. Shmuel says, I don't understand, there's another viable option. The other viable option is that the seller, Ruvain, could say to Shimon, listen, I sold it to you for shechita purposes. In other words, we'll say, we're obviously not talking about a case where there was an explicit transaction. In other words, if Shimon says to Ruvain, I want to buy your ox for plowing, right? And there's an explicitness, right? An explicitness, good. An explicitness that accompany that transaction. So that's not our question over here. The question over here is, again, there wasn't an explicit lashon in their transaction. So over here, so Shmuel says, because of that, look, people do buy oxen for shechita purposes as well, and therefore, again, in the absence of Shimon telling me something explicit, I could assume he bought it for shechita purposes. So the Gemara says, we don't follow the majority. Kia azlina basaruba bi'isura. Wow. Well, so now we're kind of going down this rabbit hole a little bit, which is really quite fascinating. So it kind of began as a machlokes. So Rav V'Simi go after the rov. The rov of people buy oxen for plowing purposes, and therefore, again, when Shimon finds out that the ox is a goring ox, he has a right to claim mekachtos, void the transaction. Shmuel says no. We don't follow the rov. We don't follow the majority, and ultimately, again, Reuven, the seller, has a right to say to Shimon, I thought you were buying it for shechita purposes, and this ox is totally fine for shechita. Now, we'll say, so now the unasked question is, one second, Shmuel, why don't you subscribe to rov? Rov is generally a very powerful principle, right? Rov, majority helps us define what reality is. So Shmuel, why don't you subscribe to rov? Listen to this. V'lo azlina basaruba, ki azlina basaruba bi'isura. Wow. Ava b'mamona lo azlina basaruba ela hamotzi michavera alav haraya. They'll say this is absolutely riveting. Absolutely riveting. So Shmuel holds that we don't go by rov when it comes to dinei mamanas. Dinei mamanas, monetary law, is defined by one core principle, which is hamotzi mechavero alav haraya. That's dinei mamanas, monetary law 101. The burden of proof is upon the party who is trying to extract the money. So now Reuven sold the shar to Shimon. I was just said who has which position of Reuven sold the shar to Shimon, right? So Reuven gave Shimon a shar. Shimon gave Reuven money. Now afterwards, what's happening over here? Shimon wants his money back. Why does Shimon want his money back? Because Shimon's claiming the shor is a goring shor. I bought this for plowing purpose. I can't use it I can't use it for plowing. It's only good for shechita. So I'll say, so now ultimately, what does Shmuel say? So Shimon, you want to now extract the money from Reuven? No problem, you could do that. But what? The burden of proof is upon you. So you, Shimon, you are now the extractor, right? Because Reuven now has possession of the money. So you have to prove somehow that you bought this shore only for plowing purposes. I don't know how you're going to do that. You can go ahead and produce your purchasing history, pricing index. But if you can't prove that this shore was purchased for dafka plowing, then you're stuck. The good news is you have an asset, you do have the shar, you could sell it off probably at somewhat of a loss, but Lamaisa, again, but you do have the asset. Why? Because motzi mechaver alav haraya. What about rov? So Shmuel holds rov is a concept that we apply to Isser. We apply to matters of prohibition. We do not apply it to Dinei Mamanis. Incredible. Tainam, a brayso that supports this. So now remember, all of this was a prolonged exercise, a riveting exercise to kind of focus us back on the Mishnah. That our Mishnah reflects one view, the view ultimately of Simchus of Maman HaMotel B'Safek Cholkin. But it does not reflect the view of the Rabbanon, which for our purpose is going to be the dominant view of Hamotzi Mechaver Alav Haraya. So Taina Achi Brayso that supports this as well. So the Gemara says, if you have a shar that went ahead and gored a cow, and I will say at the scene of the crime you have a dead cow and a dead calf. And you don't know, was the calf pregnant at the time it was gored by the shore or not? What's the halacha? Mishalim Chatzi Nezek Lepara or Revia Nezek Levlad Divrei Sumchus. Here it is, Rabbi saying. Here it is. Right? So what does Simcha say? Simcha say you'll pay Chatzi Nezek for the cow. Why Chatzi Nezek for the cow? Let's just go through this. Why Chatzi Nezek for the cow? Keren Tam. And why quarter damages for the Vlad, for the Uber, for the fetus? Why? Maman hamutal b'safek. Because again, remember if the cow technically was pregnant with the calf at the time of the goring, you'd be chayiv another chatzi nezek for the calf. Now, why that is, we haven't fully defined yet, but we're just taking this fact. You'd be chayiv another chatzi nezek for the calf, but because you're not sure, was the cow pregnant, was the cow not pregnant, therefore it's maman hamutal b'safek, it's a doubtful monetary claim. Therefore, Simcha says, half it. Therefore, you'll pay quarter damages for the calf. The Chum say, hamotzi mechaveira alav haraya. The Chum say, no. What are you talking about over here? The only thing that Reuven is obligated to pay is half damages for the cow. Right? Because that we know. We know that Reuven's ox killed Shimon's cow. That's the one definitive piece of information I know. Therefore, I'll be chayiv half damages for the cow. Anything beyond that is a motzi mechaver alav haraya. Reuven, the burden of proof is upon you to prove that your cow was pregnant at the time of the goring, and therefore the dead calf is a result of the goring as well. If you can't prove that, then there's absolutely no claim. There's no quarter damages upon Reuven. Incredible. Shabbos says, so the beauty of that brayso is the brayso kind of just took our entire discussion and formalized it. Beautiful. So now the Gemara says, by the way, where do you know this concept from? Of hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. That if you want to extract money from someone, ultimately, again, the burden of proof is upon the extractor. In other words, what's the source for that concept? So we'll say, this is incredible. Shenemar, mi bal dvarim. Suppose the Gemara over is quoting the pasuk. Suppose say this is by Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu goes ahead and says, "Listen, I'm taking Aaron with me. I'm going up to Har Sinai. So ultimately, again, Aaron and Chor are with you. Mi bal dvarim yigash aleihem. Whoever has an issue, come to them." So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm out of the office, so to speak, Sinaitic revelation, right? So now whoever has an issue, yigash aleihem, come to them. So the Gemara says, yogish raya aleihem. So a little bit of an interesting drush over here. What does it mean, yigash? Yigash literally means come to them. The Gemara dashes over here, yogish raya aleihem. Person should bring his proof to them. The idea being that the burden of proof is upon the one who wants to extract. Yogish raya. If you have a proof that someone owes you something, bring that proof before Aaron and his Beis Din. But if you can't bring your proof that someone owes you something, then you have no power of extraction. So this Maskil Ravashi Halam Likra. I don't say why do you need a pasuk over here? Svarahu. We'll say Motzi Mechaver alav haraya is a svara. What's the svara? The koiv lekiiva azla beasya. He who has the toothache or he who has the pain has to go to the doctor. In other words, we'll say if you have the problem, it's upon you to remedy it. So if you want to extract money from someone, right? We'll say, remember again, Reuven's ox gores Shimon's cow, right? At the scene of the crime, we find again dead cow, dead calf. What's the shaila? Was the cow pregnant with the calf at the time of the goring or not? Now, if you're Reuven, right? What's Reuven's problem in all this? What's Reuven's problem? Reuven has no problem. right? Reuven has no problem. I know what I'm chayiv. My ox killed your cow. That's it. Cow was pregnant. Cows. I don't know. I have no idea. And frankly, again, it's not my problem. So we'll say, so the Gemara says, he who has the problem is the one who has to remedy the problem. And we'll say, what a profound yisod. Literally, again, the one who has the toothache or the one who has the physical ailment, he has to go to the doctor. Who's the one with the problem over here? The one with the problem ultimately, again, is Shimon, right? Shimon lost the cow and the calf. It's upon Shimon to remedy the situation, not upon Reuven. I will say, what a profound yisod. In other words, the Gemara is saying, I don't need a pasuk of hamotzi mechaver lavaraya. Remember again, I will say, the burden of proof is obviously upon the extractor, because remember again, the extractor is the one who wants to change the status quo. What's the status quo? The status quo is that Reuven's money belongs to Reuven. You want to change the status quo? Whose problem is that? Whose problem is that? Ultimately, it's yours. It's right, ours. It's Shimon's, right? So Shimon, therefore, the burden of proof. So therefore, two different rayas as to how we know. Either a pasuk, mi bal dvarim yogish alehem, or again just svara. Svara, you want to extract, right? You have a problem, something hurts you, you go to the doctor. Shimon, you have a problem because now your calf is dead and you're claiming Reuven's ox did it. Fine, you're entitled to make that claim. But the burden of proof is upon you. I will say, a tremendous Moshe Haskell in this also, right? He who has the pain has to go to the doctor. He who has the problem has the obligation to remedy it. I will say so many times in life, we have challenges, we have issues, we have difficulties, and consciously or subconsciously, we put the responsibility to alleviate and to address those issues on someone else. On someone else. He'll say, if I have a problem, it's my problem. And because it's my problem, the responsibility to address it rests on me, not on my mother, not on my father, not on my spouse, not on my kids, not on my rabbi, not on my friends. If I have an issue, the buck of my life stops with me. He who has the problem has the obligation to seek out the remedy. What a tremendous Moshe Haskell. Elakra. The Chidra of Nachman. So we'll say, what can we use the pasuk for? The pasuk will help for Nachman. Amar Gemara says, so we'll say, this is interesting. So now, what's interesting is as follows. So Rav Ashi, so we'll say, so just want to point out over here, remember, we have this overarching machlokes, Sumchus and Rabban, a very exciting daf today. Overarching machlokes. Sumchus saying, Maman hamotl b'safek cholkin, right? And Chachamim saying, Hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. And I will say, obviously, we know, we pass like the Chachamim, not like Sumchus. Now the Gemara is saying, by the way, we already know the concept of Hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. So two possibilities, either the pasuk, mi bal dvarim, Yigash Aleim, possibility one, or possibility two. Rav Ashi says you don't need a pasuk; it's a svara, it's logical. So if it's logical, what would you do with the pasuk? So the Gemara says, "Elakra lechid Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua." Don't Rav Nachman Baravua. The pasuk teaches the following. What's into this? Minayin sheiniskakin el letovei tchila. We'll say this is actually a fascinating case. Quick look at Rashi. I want to get a chance to tell you a beautiful Yitav Lev in just a moment. So look at Rashi. Sheiniskakin el letovei tchila. Kigon Ruvain. First Rashi in the daf. Kigon Ruvain tovei. Mishimin mana shalvo be'edim b'shtar v'shimon mashivo tafasta mishali hachzir li masha tafasta o mashkan hayabiyatcha v'niftach midamav shenishtamtavo o listen to this. Reuven claims that he lent $1,000 to Shimon, right? Fine. So what happens? So now they're in Beis Din. Shimon claims, you know what? You're right. You did go ahead and lend me money, or I say differently. Shimon makes a counterclaim, and Shimon says, "You have an object of mine, right? You lent me money, but you seized collateral. I want my collateralized object back, or you have another item in my possession." So Reuven's bringing Shimon to Beis Din for a claim about a loan, money that he owes him. Shimon makes a counterclaim. So the Gemara says, "How do you know that when that happens?" Which could be very common. We deal first with Reuven's claim, and then we'll deal with Shimon's counterclaim. Right? That when Reuven brings Shimon to adjudicate a particular matter, and while they're in Beis Din, Shimon makes a counterclaim, we deal with first claim first. First Reuven's claim to Shimon, and then Shimon's claim to Reuven. How do you know that? How do you know that we deal with the first claim first? Shneimar mi bal dvarim yigash aleihem yagishu dvarav aleihem. The Rebbe says, so ultimately, essentially, what we say is like this: whoever is the one who brought the case to Beis Din, that's the case we deal with first. After we deal with the first case, then we're happy to deal with Shimon's counterclaim as well. So Rebbe say, so really, what Rav Ashi suggests is, so Rav Ashi learns out that the concept of hamotzi mechavera alav harai is svara, is logic. He doesn't need the pasuk. He uses the pasuk to teach us a procedural halacha. That when Reuven brings Shimon to Beis Din, because let's say again he claims, Shimon, you owe me money, and when they're in Beis Din, Shimon makes a counterclaim, right? That you have an object of mine. We say, Shimon, hold up. First, let's deal with the initial claim, and then after we finish that, we'll deal with your counterclaim. So we'll say, so we base on the pasuk, mi bal dvarim yigash aleihem, yagish dvarav aleihem. He who brought the initial suit, he who brought the initial din Torah, ultimately we adjudicate his case first. So Nardai said, well, that's true, but there are times where sometimes we will address the counterclaim first. When will you address the counterclaim first? Ultimately, again, the hechidami, the kazil nechasei. We'll say, let's say again, when the counterclaim is regarding a piece of property that is depreciating significantly, or there's some other adverse financial impact to Shimon, then sometimes we will deal with the counterclaim first. So again, Rashi points out over the kazil nechasei shish kan tagrin sheignu b'dam mikarim. So we'll say, let's say Shimon's claiming to Reuven. Remember again, Reuven claims Shimon, you owe me $1,000. Shimon claims Reuven, you have my Rolex. You have my Rolex, and it happens to be that Shimon has a buyer for the Rolex now, right? Or that the watch market is depreciating, whatever it is. So in that case, where there is a negative adverse financial implication for Shimon, if we don't deal with the counterclaim first, sometimes we will deal with the counterclaim ultimately again before the primary claim. Just an exception. So I'll say, so bottom line, what do we walk away with? Bottom line, so first of all, it's one of these fascinating ideas that an entire Mishnah is not reflective of a view that we paskin like. So we end off ultimately again with the fundamental machlokes sumchus and the Rabbanon and the Chum. Sumchus holding, right? Ultimately, again, the Rabbanan holding. Hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. We'll see how this plays out in the cases of the Mishnah a little bit more tomorrow. We also saw today the source for hamotzi mechavera alav haraya. Either again it's a pasuk mi bal dvar mi gashalem or svara. Logic. If it's svara, what do you do with the pasuk? So the pasuk teaches me again about procedural logistics for Beis Din. That when Reuven brings Shimon to Beis Din for a claim, and Shimon goes in and gives a counterclaim, we deal with the primary claim before the counterclaim. Unless, of course, there's a serious, adverse financial implication for Shimon, then we will deal with the counterclaim first. Well, so I'll just end off with a beautiful idea. In the Yitav Lev, the Rebbe of Sigit says something incredibly beautiful. He says, "B'derech hashkafa, hamotzi mechavera alav haraya," goes ahead and teaches us two profound moral and ethical implications as well. The Rebbe says like this. He says, sometimes you have to give musar to someone. Right? It happens. You have to say to someone something difficult. Right? Divrei tochacha, words of rebuke, words of musar. And sometimes it's hard to know, should you say words of musar or not say words of musar? So how do you know if you should or not? So listen to the Rebbe says, listen to this. He says, Kilomar, im hamochiach bidvarav shashom, im hamochiach gorim bidvarav shashom, mekabnas dvarav, alav haraya. But if by saying something to someone, right? If by saying something to someone, motzi michavero, you're going to cause them to self-actualize. Sometimes if by saying something difficult to someone, they're going to take it to heart. And ultimately, again, that will help them find something deep within themselves. Motzi michavero, alav haraya. Then that is the proof that indeed the words should be said. He'll say, you hear this, such a profound yesod, that sometimes in life I have to say something difficult to someone. And you have to measure, should you say it, should you not say it, how should it be said? So how do you gauge it? So it's very simple. Words of musar and words of rebuke are meant to bring something holy out of someone. If the words are going to be motzi mechavero, if the words are going to extract trapped kedusha from inside of an individual, motzi mechavero, alav haraya, then that is the proof that they should be said. But if the words are going to fall on deaf ears, then at the end of the day, sometimes better not to say it. That's lesson 1. Incredible. Lesson 2, I will say, listen to, the Rebbe says, Motzi mechavero. Rebbe say, sometimes you want to say something to someone because you feel that they should be performing at a higher level. And you could plug this into whatever you want. With your children, you want to say something to your kids to push them a little bit further, sometimes even in a marriage, sometimes with friends, sometimes in a leadership capacity. If you want to say something to someone to be motzi mechavero because you want them to realize their potential, the Rebbe says, Alav haraya. First look in the mirror. First look in the mirror. The raya, right, the burden of proof is upon you. Meaning what? Never expect something of someone else that you yourself are not ready to deliver. If you're going to ask something from someone, you better make sure that you're operating on that same level. If you're going to demand something of someone, make sure that you're living up to that same expectations. You're going to hold someone to a higher standard, you can do that. Alav haraya, as long as you hold yourself to that same exact standard as well. Now let's say 2 profound lessons from one simple phrase. Hamotzi mechaver alav haraya is not just a halachic principle, but it's a hashkafic principle as well. Sometimes we have to say difficult things to people. Should you say it or should you not? The raya, what's the raya? Hamotzi mechavero. Will a person be encouraged to self-actualize because of these difficult words? Then alav haraya, then say it. If it's hamotzi mechavero, then say it. Second lesson, if you're going to hold someone to a higher standard, hamotzi mechavero, you want to hold someone else up, alav haraya. Make sure that whatever standard you're holding anyone else to, alav haraya, that you are holding yourself to that very same standard as well. All right, I'll say shkoyach. Stop over for today. What a way to start the week. Mazel tov on the new parak. Incredible. All right, Chavra on Zoom. Shkoyach, everyone.